I moved to this small town in the Appalachian Mountains about a month ago. I was looking for peace after a rough time in the city. I thought the fresh air and slower pace would help me heal. The first 2 nights were calm. I sat on my porch and breathed in the quiet. It felt nice. But on my second night off, I heard scratching noises outside my window. My heart raced. I thought it might be a raccoon or tree branches swaying. I looked out the window but saw only darkness and trees. I shook my head, trying to brush it off. The next morning the sun was bright, but the feeling of being watched lingered. I couldn't shake it. Over the next few days I talked to the locals. They seemed friendly but also strange. Their eyes shifted and they avoided certain topics. They shared stories about the land, about lost children and families that vanished. I laughed it off, thinking it was just small-town gossip. But as the days went by, that unease twisted in my stomach. Something didn't feel right. One night, as I relaxed on the porch, I heard it again. Laughter, soft and childlike, echoed from the woods. It sent chills down my spine. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. I listened closely, looking towards the dark trees. Nothing. I convinced myself I was imagining things, but I wasn't sure. The next night, the laughter was louder. I stepped out onto the porch, adrenaline coursing through me. I followed the sound, trying to pinpoint where it was coming from. It seemed to come from deeper in the woods. A cold fear gripped me, and I thought about heading inside, but my curiosity pulled me closer. Before I knew it, I stood at the edge of the tree line, staring into the thick darkness. I felt small and exposed. Then I saw it, a shadow moving just beyond my sight. My heart raced faster. I wanted to turn back, to run, but the coldness in the air held me still. Something felt alive out there, waiting. As I took a step back, I heard it again, a clear voice. "Help me." I stood frozen. Was that real? Had I imagined it? My gut twisted with fear. I turned to leave, but the shadow moved closer. I felt paralyzed. I wanted to run home, but my feet wouldn't budge. The voice pulled at me. What did it want? Was it a lost child? I strained my eyes to see, but the darkness swallowed everything. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in over my head. Help me. The voice echoed in my mind. I thought about calling out, but what if it wasn't real? What kind of place had I come to? The questions weighed on me like lead. All I wanted was peace, but this felt like a nightmare. I was too deep now to turn back. I took a shaky breath, trying to clear my mind. The voice lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of my growing dread. I glanced at the house behind me, a light shining warmly through my front window. Safety. But that voice, childlike and desperate, tugged at something deep inside of me. Help me. The words echoed again. I felt an undeniable pull toward the shadow. It was as if it knew something I didn't. But what? I took a step forward, half hoping the darkness would swallow me and answer my questions. Then, without warning, a twig snapped behind me. I spun around, heart racing. My pulse thudded in my ears. The woods were dark and silent once more. I called out, "Is anyone there?" My voice quaked in the stillness, swallowed by the cold air. No answer, just the whisper of the breeze through the leaves. I was about to head back inside when I noticed something on the ground. A small object glinted in the moonlight, half buried under fallen leaves. I crouched down, curiosity overpowering my fear. I picked it up. It was a tarnished locket, cold and old, with intricate designs etched on its surface. My fingers brushed over it and I felt a jolt of something like static electricity. In that second, the temperature dropped a few degrees. I glanced back at the woods, feeling eyes on me again. My instincts screamed to leave, to run home. But the locket felt heavy in my hand, as though it was tied to the voice, to the shadow. I flipped it open. Inside was a faded photograph of a smiling child. My breath tightened in my chest. Who was this? I looked back at the trees, but there was only darkness. The laughter had faded, replaced by a deafening silence. I stood up quickly, clutching the locket tightly. I turned to head back to my porch when I heard a sound. Soft at first, then louder, a repetitive rustling in the underbrush. My heart sank. My gut twisted. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from behind a tree. I gasped, stumbling backward. It was a girl no more than 8 years old with disheveled hair and dirt-smudged cheeks. She stared at me with wide, hollow eyes, and for a moment I didn't know if I should be relieved or terrified. "Please," she whispered. "You have to help me." The air felt charged with tension. What was she doing out there? In this dark, lonely woods? "Where are your parents?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She pointed deeper into the trees, her little finger trembling. "They need you to help them too." Every instinct screamed at me to flee, yet I felt trapped in her gaze. I opened my mouth to speak, but a sudden gust of wind rushed through the trees, shaking the branches and carrying the faint sound of laughter. The little girl's expression shifted. "They're coming," she said, her voice urgent. "You can't stay here." Before I could respond, the laughter grew louder, creeping in from all around. With my heart pounding, I took a step back, feeling the pull of fear deep in my chest. I glanced at the locket still in my hand, then at the girl, who looked scared too. That's when I saw it, a shadow moving swiftly behind the trees. My breath caught in my throat. I had to decide. Run or stay. One path led to safety, the other into the unknown darkness. But I was already too far in. My decision was made as if by instinct. I turned and ran, pushing through the underbrush without looking back. Branches whipped against my arms, my breath quickened, and the wail of laughter echoed in my ears like a ghostly serenade. I could still feel the weight of the locket in my pocket, a reminder of the girl and the terror that lurked behind me. The path seemed to stretch endlessly, each step further drawing me into the suffocating darkness of the woods. I kept hearing rustles, and now I was certain it wasn't just the wind. There were things in the shadows. I could sense them, moving, watching. The urge to scream bubbled within me, but I bit my tongue, focusing on putting distance between myself and whatever was chasing me. Suddenly, I crashed into a clearing. The moonlight spilled generously here, illuminating the ground like a spotlight. I gasped for breath, the cool night air filling my lungs. But there was no time to rest. Panic surged again as I turned around, half expecting to see the little girl or whatever had stalked her. What met my eyes raised the hair on my arms. At the edge of the clearing stood an old decaying swing hanging from a gnarled tree limb. It moved slowly, as if pushed by an unseen force, creaking loudly with each swing. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, syncing with the rhythm of its pathetic motions. Then I squinted into the darkness beyond the tree line. Shapes began to materialize. More figures, indistinct but gathering, their silhouettes mere shadows against the night. They were mimicking the laughter I'd heard earlier, a haunting melody that sliced through my nerves. "Leave me alone," I shouted, my voice cracking. The laughter faded for just a moment, then surged back, louder and more chaotic. I stumbled back, trying to regain control as the shadows grew bolder, stepping closer, out of the confines of the trees. That's when I felt something cold brush against my shoulder. I whirled around, ready to confront whatever nightmare awaited. But it was just the locket, the clasp, slipping under the pressure of my panic. I fumbled to hold it, my fingers trembling. In the dim light, I caught a glimpse of something reflective near my feet. Another photograph just like the one inside the locket. But this one was different. It depicted a group of children, all smiling, with the girl from before among them. They looked so alive, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in some twisted dream. I reached down, my heart racing as I picked it up. As soon as my fingers brushed the surface, a blinding flash filled the air as if a light was shining just beyond the woods. I squinted, trying to process the sight through the shadows, and then heard the girl's voice again, this time clear as a bell. "You have to help them, they won't let you go." The laughter spiraled into screams, echoing with angry urgency. That's when I finally understood. It wasn't just my fear pushing me forward, it felt like something was dragging me back. Whatever was in the shadows wanted me to stay, and I was just beginning to realize that leaving might not be an option. I stood frozen, The photograph clutched in my hand, heart racing as if about to leap from my chest. The voices of the children chanted around me, vibrating with a desperation that sent chills down my spine. The laughter had transformed, a chorus of pleas ringing out from the shadows. "Help us! Help us!" they echoed, shifting like ghosts, drawing nearer, surrounding me. I took a step back, but the ground felt slick beneath my feet, as if the earth itself was growing too soft. Panic surged again and I stumbled, falling onto the damp grass, the photograph slipping from my grip. I blinked, dazed and terrified, and watched as the image shimmered before fading into the darkness of the night. "Please," a voice begged, clearer now. It was the girl from the photograph. Her face appeared in my mind so vividly, yet it felt like a memory from someone else's life. I struggled to breathe as the shadows pooled together, swirling and pulsating, becoming something greater than themselves. I pushed myself up and forced my feet to move, driven by instinct. I need to get out of here, I thought, glancing back at the shapes. Their forms shifted like waves, pressing against the boundaries of the clearing. Somehow they were trapped in the woods, just like me. But as I turned to escape, something caught my eye. A flicker of light emerged from deeper within the trees. It was dim but undeniable, a small glow cutting through the dark. Driven by a mixture of dread and determination, I braced myself and raced toward it. The voices faded, willing me to return, but I couldn't let them pull me back. With each stride, the darkness seemed to fight against me, fingers grasping at my clothes, tugging at my heels. I gasped at the sudden weight of the night, a suffocating presence that threatened to swallow me whole. The flickering light drew closer, revealing a space where trees parted, revealing what looked like a small clearing. Once again I broke into the open air, but what met my eyes was unexpected. A fire pit lay at the center, embers glowing faintly and sending tendrils of smoke into the night sky. Surrounding it were scraps of fabric, worn and torn, as if remnants of long-lost stories had been abandoned here. Threadbare toys scattered around, a doll with one eye missing, a baseball cap, the remnants of a child's laughter now faded. I felt a sudden chill. This was not just a clearing, it was a graveyard of lost childhoods. Then above the whispering wind I heard it again, the girl's voice. "You have to find the others." It pierced through my thoughts. My pulse quickened as I realized this wasn't only about escaping the woods. I was meant to uncover something deeper, something that connected me to the figures that lingered in the shadows, trapped in a cycle of longing and despair. I turned, moving back toward the darkness, drawn by the pull of the voices. They weren't just seeking help. They sought a connection. Maybe if I found them, I thought, I could uncover the truth. But as I stepped into the shadows again, a cold wind whipped through the trees. The laughter erupted into shrieks and the figures surged forward. That's when I saw it, a flickering shadow among them, an outline of a child reaching out toward me, eyes wide with desperation. I froze, heartbeat echoing in my ears, and realized I was not just running from something. I was standing on the edge of discovering what had happened to them, and it terrified me. I didn't know what to do. The child's shadow reached out farther, as if desperate for something I couldn't give. I wanted to scream, but my voice felt trapped behind a wall of terror. Instead, I took a shaky step forward, my feet moving of their own accord. The darkness seemed to throb as I approached. I strained to see more, and the laughter twisted into a chaotic symphony of despair, echoing off the trees. I thought I heard distinct voices intermingling. Each one seemed like a different child, their tones blending into a haunting chorus. "Help!" the girl cried once more, and with it came the shattering realization. She wasn't the only one. I felt the weight of many souls pressing down on me. They needed something from me, but what? My mind raced, searching for answers. I remembered the photograph. There had to be a clue in it somewhere. I focused on the girl's face. She had been the only one vivid in my memory. I had to find her again, to listen to her story fully. But as I stood there, caught between the shifting blackness and the flicker of light behind me, I noticed my surroundings changing. The trees seemed to sway, and the ground beneath me transformed from soft earth into a hard surface, almost like pavement. I stumbled, the sudden shift knocking me off balance, and then I saw it. A dilapidated swing set, rusty and creaking in the wind, surrounded by more remnants. A tricycle tilted precariously, a swing swaying as if someone had just left it. It struck me like a punch to the gut. This was a playground, but it was long forgotten, left to fend for itself amidst the forest encroachment. "Is this where they play?" I whispered. "Not anymore," came a soft voice beside me. I turned, finding a boy standing a few feet away. He was small and thin, his clothes tattered and too big for him. He looked just like the child on the photograph, with big, pleading eyes that mirrored the girl's. "Who are you?" I asked quietly, my heart racing. "I used to be here." His voice was a raspy whisper. "Now we're trapped." His eyes darted to the shadowy figures emerging behind me, and my breath hitched. They seemed to shift back, hesitant, but filled with urgency. "Please," he said, "you have to help us." But help meant more than just offering a hand, and I felt the weight of their sorrow. I wanted to know why they were bound to this place, but I also knew I was running out of time. The chill in the air intensified, coiling around me. The boy stepped closer. "We can tell you what happened, but you have to listen careful." "Wait, what do you mean?" Before I could process his words, the fire pit's embers flared up, illuminating the shadows for a brief moment. Then everything went dark. Silence thickened the air. I could feel the hovering forms grow restless, closing in. "Tell me, what happened?" I cried, feeling waves of dread wash over me. And then new voices rose from the depths of the blackness, weaving through the silence. "Find the answer. Find the truth." Suddenly the ground beneath me lurched, opening like a void. I stumbled forward, slipping toward the darkness that threatened to consume everything. That's when I felt a hand grasp mine, and I wasn't sure if it was the boy or something far more sinister that had pulled me into the unknown. I was pulled into a cold patch of darkness, the grip on my hand tightening. It felt like a vice. Panic surged through me. I couldn't tell where the ground ended and the void began. I grasped for anything solid as the shadows spiraled around me, chaos tumbling and shifting in a way that made my stomach churn. "Don't let go," the boy shouted, his voice strained against the madness. "You can't get lost." The shadows whispered, "She doesn't belong here." A surge of energy shot through me, and I wrenched my hand free, stumbling into a dizzying blur of light and dark. I blinked, and suddenly I was back in the playground. But it was different now. The swing set creaked more violently, and fragments of laughter mixed with cries echoed in the air. I looked around frantically, seeking the boy. "Where are you?" "They're here," he said, his voice appearing from nowhere, yet everywhere at once. "You need to listen." Just as I found him standing beside the swing, something darted past me in the trees. A glimpse of a girl with a ponytail, flitting through the shadows like a wisp of smoke. My heart hammered in my chest. If that was her, then she had to know more. "Wait." I took a step towards the tree line, but shadows shot forward, swirling like a storm. "Stop, you can't chase them," the boy warned. "They'll lead you away." "Why are you trapped here?" I yelled, frustration spilling over. "What happened to you all?" He looked pained. "It was our game. We just wanted to play. But we never came back." "Play? What do you mean?" I felt a chill dance up my spine. But before he could answer, the shadows writhed violently, and the girl with the ponytail appeared again, closer now. She was staring at me, her eyes wide with fear, and my heart twisted. I recognized those eyes. "You're the one in the photo." A soft light flickered inside me, urging me to approach her. She reached out and temptation pulled at my very being. The shadows, however, hissed like a pack of wolves, clawing at the edges of my sanity. "Run!" the boy screamed, his voice suddenly urgent. "She's not what she seems." But I was already stepping forward, drawn by her desperate gaze. "Help us!" she cried, and in that moment, I was torn between the truth I sought and the looming danger surrounding me. Something shifted inside me, and the ground trembled again. I took a step back, my mind racing. What do I do? The boy's eyes widened in worry. You have to remember. They need you to remember what happened. And that's when I saw it. A glimpse of something hidden in the trees, a forgotten toy half buried in the dirt. My pulse quickened. I had to get closer, but the shadows seemed to writhe more aggressively, eager to keep me from the truth. Please, I gasped, courage battling fear. I had come too far to turn back now. But as I reached out, the shadows coiled tighter around me. I felt them trying to pull me down again, and in that chaos, something shattered. A scream merged with laughter, echoing through the darkness. In that instant, I realized I was not just fighting for them. I was fighting for my own chance to escape. I took a deep breath, shoving my fear aside. I needed to confront the shadows, not let them consume me. The toy in the trees became a beacon of hope. I had to reach it. What happened to you? I shouted at the boy, the urgency in my voice echoing against the darkness. Remember the stories, he yelled back, desperation lacing his words. It's all there. He was right. I had heard tales as a child, stories woven with magic and shadows, about kids who played too long in the woods and never returned. They were more than just stories. They were warnings. The realization gnawed at me. Could this playground be a stage for those lost souls? The girl with the ponytail began to fade, her image wavering like a reflection on water. We played a game, but it went wrong, she said, her voice catching in the shadows. You have to find us. I took another step toward the trees, the toy now just out of reach. I spotted something bright, a glimmer of color against the dull earth. My heart raced. I'll find you. As I lunged forward, the shadows recoiled, hissing like angry snakes. They seemed to pulsate with a life of their own, wrapping around me like chains. You don't understand, they howled, their voices low and menacing. You mustn't touch it. But something inside me snapped. I hadn't come this far to back down. I locked my eyes on the toy, a red fire truck with a missing wheel. As my fingers brushed against it, a painful electric shock coursed through me, and a rush of memories struck like a tidal wave. I saw the boy and girl from the playground, their faces filled with joy as they played. I heard echoes of laughter and the thrill of hide and seek. Then the laughter turned into screams and the joy faded, replaced by darkness. I saw the moment they chose to explore the woods, the moment they were swallowed whole. Gasping, I pulled my hand back. What did you do? The shadows pulsed around me in violent waves, their whispers now frantic. It was a mistake. We just wanted to stay together. Reality twisted around me as the playground blurred again. I was losing the ground beneath my feet. No, don't take me, I shouted, but the shadows screamed louder, drowning out my voice. In the chaos, I saw the boy again, still by the swing, his expression a mixture of fear and hope. You have to stay, you're our only chance. I was caught between worlds, and the laughter echoed again, louder this time. A chorus of past joys twisted into a horror film. I felt the pull of the shadows trying to take me, their icy fingers scraping at my skin. I couldn't let it end like this. Please, remember your strength, the boy yelled, and suddenly it clicked. I wasn't just here to help them. I was here to reclaim our memories, to break this cycle of entrapment. With a surge of determination, I forced myself to stand tall against the shadows. I remember, I shouted, and my voice sliced through the chaos. I will not be a part of your game. And just like that, the shadows recoiled, writhing in fury. As they thrashed, I caught sight of the girl's face, the hope shimmering in her eyes. Yet just when I thought I had gained control, the world shook beneath me, and everything went dark. Fear gripped me. The darkness closed in, a heavy blanket, and I fought against the suffocating weight. Then I heard it, a distant laugh, familiar and chilling. The game was far from over. The darkness felt alive, swallowing me whole. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Then that laugh returned, haunting and echoing, bouncing off imaginary walls in the void. It clung to me, wrapping around my heart like a vice. I blinked, and suddenly, I was no longer in the playground. I found myself standing on a path surrounded by trees, their branches reaching like gnarled fingers. The air was thick with mist. I could hardly see a few feet ahead. Panic surged through me. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. "Is anyone there?" Silence answered, but then I heard rustling. I turned quickly, body tense. Through the fog, a figure emerged, moving slowly. What if it was another shadow? My gut clenched with fear, but I had to be brave. I had come too far to give up now. The figure stepped closer, and I recognized her, the girl with the ponytail from my visions. "You found me," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. Yet her eyes looked dim. There was a sadness behind them. "Is this where you were taken?" I asked, heart racing again. I wanted to understand what had happened to her. "No," she replied, shaking her head. "This place is a trap. We wanted to play, but the game turned against us. You have to make it stop." As she spoke, I remembered the toy, that red fire truck. "But I touched it. I thought it would help you." Her expression shifted. "Weston tried. It only made things worse. You have to find the other toys. They hold the key to our freedom." "What do you mean?" I didn't understand. "There are more?" "Yes." Panic laced her words. "They're scattered in the woods. Each one has a piece of the magic that trapped us." Before I could ask more, she looked over my shoulder, her face paling. "They're coming, you have to go." I turned, and from the shadows a movement caught my eye. Dark shapes curled and twisted towards me, their eyes glowing, hungry and malicious. The shadows were not just whispers, they had a form, and they were gaining on me. "Run!" the girl urged, but I felt rooted to the ground. I took a deep breath and forced myself to move. My heart drummed in my chest as I sprinted blindly down the path, the mist thickening around me. I couldn't let them catch me. I thought of the boy, and the girl's warning stirred something deep inside me. Then I spotted it. Another toy half buried in the dirt, a blue kite with frayed edges. "Please don't let this be a trap," I muttered as I lunged for it. I grasped the kite tightly and felt a surge of energy ripple through my fingers, stirring the shadows briefly. They hesitated, but they wouldn't give up easily. They were relentless. Then everything went silent again. The shadows paused, and I took a deep breath. Was this a moment of reprieve, or was it a pause before the storm? The kite thrummed in my hand, pulsing with warmth. I had to find the others. "Where are you, Weston?" I whispered, determination flooding me. But just as I gathered the courage to move again, a piercing scream erupted from the shadows. It was the girl from before, her voice filled with terror. "No, don't leave me." I was torn. I couldn't just abandon her again, but those dark figures stirred. This was only going to get worse. I dashed deeper into the woods, each step echoing with uncertainty, desperately searching for the next clue and hoping to break this haunting cycle for good. The trees loomed taller as I pushed ahead, branches clawing at my clothes like desperate hands. I couldn't shake the girl's voice from my mind. Her fear resonated within me, but I had to keep moving. I could hear the shadows closing in, their whispers growing louder, swirling around me like a sinister wind. My heart raced as I stumbled upon a clearing. The mist hung low, and in the center stood a small, crooked wooden shed. It looked ancient and worn, as if it had been there long before I was born. I hesitated, unsure whether to approach or flee. Something felt wrong, but there was also an unmistakable pull, as if the shed was calling me. I stepped forward, glancing over my shoulder. That darkness was still there, lurking just beyond the trees. I turned the handle cautiously, the wood creaking in protest. Inside, it was dark, but my eyes adjusted enough to make out shapes, and the outlines of toys sat scattered on dusty shelves. Then I saw it. A small drum in the corner, its surface marred but still gleamed ever so slightly. I approached it, drawn to its rhythm. As I reached for the drum, a jolt of energy surged through me, rattling my nerves. Had I found another piece of the puzzle? But just then something thudded against the door behind me. I spun around, heart racing anew. The shadows were back, angry and relentless, inching closer, undulating in the dim light. Where they had hesitated before, they now surged forward like a tide of darkness intent on drowning everything in its path. "Come on!" I shouted, desperation taking over. I gripped the drum, feeling the energy pulse stronger in my grip. I took a deep breath and lifted it, knowing I couldn't just stand there. I needed to act. The moment I struck the drum, a burst of sound erupted, sharp, vibrant, and full of life. For a brief moment, the shadows recoiled, as if the noise had stung them. The air shifted, and I felt the warmth of hope flickering inside my chest. "Keep going, don't stop!" The girl's voice echoed in my mind. I kept hitting the drum, gaining courage with each beat. Each sound pushed the shadows back, forcing them to twist and writhe. But I knew this was just temporary. Just as I was about to feel triumphant, a cold breeze swept into the shed, extinguishing the warmth. I felt the drum grow heavier in my hands, and for a split second, doubt seeped in. Was this really going to work? Should I keep playing? That's when I saw it. A flicker of movement in the shadows outside. A figure stepped forward, shrouded in the mist, and my stomach dropped. It was a boy, and he was struggling against the dark shapes wrapping around him like chains. "Help me!" he shouted, eyes wide with fear. Panic gripped me as I realized it was Weston. The shadows fought harder, dragging him away from me. "Weston!" I shouted, instinct driving me. I couldn't let him disappear like the others. I had to choose, the drum or him. I hesitated for only a moment before leaping towards the door, fueled by instinct. I would find a way to save him, even if it meant facing the darkness head-on. I sprinted toward Weston, the drum still weighing heavily in my hand. The shadows swirled around us, ravenous and angry. I had to act fast. "Hold on!" I shouted, but my voice was drowned out by the cacophony of laughter and shrieks echoing in the darkness. Just as I reached him, the shadows lunged, wrapping around his ankles and pulling him down. I lunged forward without thinking, clutching his arm. "You can't give up," I yelled, feeling the icy grip of the darkness clawing at me, trying to force me away. But I was determined. "Please," Weston cried, struggling against their grasp. My heart ached as I looked into his terrified eyes. In that moment, something shifted inside me. I felt an electric pulse, like the drum had sent a surge of warmth coursing through my veins. I had to channel that energy, push back against the shadows. "Together," I shouted, locking my gaze on Weston. "We can break this." I could feel the weight of the past pressing in, all the echoes of the lost souls surrounding us, but I was done running. I dropped the drum and grabbed both of his hands, pulling him toward me. "Remember your game," I urged, drawing on memories from long ago. The laughter, the joy, that's the key to set us free. As I spoke, I could see the shadows flinch, shivering at the bright memories of joy. They didn't like the light. "Play," I shouted. "Let's remember what it means to be free." With every ounce of strength, I tugged Weston to his feet. I could feel the magic, our laughter igniting the air. In that instant, it was as if the oppressive darkness hesitated, just for a breath. The shadows shrieked, twisting and writhing as if in agony. Weston looked at me, his eyes kindling with life. "We can do this," he cried, and together, we began to laugh. The melody danced through the air like sunlight slicing through clouds. I hadn't expected it, but our laughter somehow merged, becoming a barrier against the shadows. I dared to glance around. The silhouettes faltered. The laughter had a power I never knew it could wield. More figures appeared in the haze, the lost children gathering, encouraged by our defiance. They released soft giggles, blending with ours, forming a chorus that bolstered our resolve. The shadows rippled, and for a moment they began to unravel, dissipating like smoke. "Keep going," I urged, unable to stop. Diana's voice rang in my mind, and I thought of her, her frightened eyes urging me to push forward. "Don't stop." Suddenly, the darkness screamed, a horrifying sound that clawed at my ears. Whatever was holding them back was slipping. Weston and I rallied our spirits. We were breaking free from this nightmare together. But as we laughed, a powerful throb pulsed through the darkness. I realized this was only the dawn of a storm. They would strike back. Suddenly the shadows surged forward with new fury. "No!" I yelled, pulling Weston tighter. The sound and strength that had fueled our escape began to falter. "Quick, find the toys!" Weston shouted, and I turned my head, focusing on the shed. The remnants of the lost kids still sat waiting. A flicker of hope sparked inside me. The drum, I thought, recalling the way it pushed the shadows back. Wisps of silhouettes surged toward us, but we raced toward the shed, fear propelling us forward. I flung the door open, diving inside as shadows slashed at my heels. Weston followed closely behind, and together we started grabbing anything that looked familiar, each piece a puzzle toward freedom. I snagged a doll, its expression frozen in a moment of joy, and felt that familiar spark return. It pulsed with the promise of laughter. "I've got one," I shouted, lifting it in the air. "Me too," Weston called, brandishing a worn baseball. I felt a rush of energy that wrapped around us, knitting the memories together. The shadows shrieked, thrashing in agony as light washed over us, pushing them further back. "The latch!" Weston yelled suddenly. I looked toward the back of the shed where a small, rusted latch hung unattended. My heart raced. I knew what I had to do. We leaped toward it, hands trembling as we slid the latch open. The door cracked and light flooded the shed. A gentle breeze swept inside, dispersing some shadows that threatened to pull us back. The shadows screeched, swirling around us, desperate not to let go of their hold. But we were already outside, charged with energy, bursting into laughter. More memories spun as we ran toward the edge of the woods, the toys held tight in our hands. As I glanced back, the silhouettes loomed ominously, still clawing for us, their anger a wave behind us. Their desperate cries transformed into anguish. "You don't belong!" they shrieked, echoing in the thick forest air. "No!" I shouted, adrenaline coursing through me. "We do belong, we're here to play." With those words, light exploded around us. The shadows writhed in conflict, dissolving against the flood of warmth. The path ahead gleamed like a flowing river. I could see the real world waiting, a glimpse of freedom and peace that felt almost palpable. I tore my gaze away, focusing on the future. Weston and I pressed forward. The shadows faded behind us, grasping at echoes of laughter now lost. As I stumbled into the clearing, I could hardly breathe, but relief washed over me. I turned to Weston, still radiating that beautiful, courageous smile. Freedom had pulled us through, tied us together in this chaotic realm. I didn't realize how far we had come until I heard a gentle voice. The girl with the ponytail. "Thank you," she whispered, drifting in the air like floating petals. "You're free. You've brought us home." But as I blinked, the girl and the spirit started to fade like the morning mist, leaving only shadows of memories behind. I stood in the clearing, panting. The haunting echoes remained, but now they felt lighter, as if the heavy burden had been lifted, allowing hope to seep back in. I glanced around the trees, uncertain what would come next. The night still lingered, holding its mysteries, but I could feel it shifting. I moved back to my life, knowing the shadows were still there, hiding somewhere beyond the veil of the forest, whispering secrets. But I had survived. I could carry their laughter with me always. Sometimes I still hear the echoes of their voices. I don't know if the woods will reclaim what was lost. I still think about that playground and the laughter that once filled it. But I moved forward, one step at a time, keeping the toys safe, promising to remember. I guess I'll never fully understand the darkness and light that coexists, but I know I have the strength to choose joy over fear.